That's how we own it.
What's up, family? It's your girl, Tamika D, Mallory.
And it's your boy, Mysonne, the General.
And we are your hosts of Street Politicians, the place where the streets and politics meet. What's up, Mice?
What's going on with you, man? How you feeling?
Good out.
Oh, that's the paperback version.
That's paperback version.
It's licensed.
State of Emergency is out. I am like a real author. I went from a hardcover, made it almost a year. I think May 25th or May 15th. You know, my behind doesn't always work. Is the 1 year anniversary of my hardcover book, State of Emergency. You know, I keep it in my background all the time.
Dark skin version and a light skin version.
Right. And now I love this version. For people who are listening, you got to check it out. May 3rd, which is today, the paperback version of my book drops, and it's a dope cover. You guys have deliberated back and forth on both covers, so I have to give y'all a little credit for helping me to choose the best ones. And you know, for folks who haven't read State of Emergency, I could tell you that, and it's not so much because it's my book, because, you know, I'm super critical of myself, and I'm one of those crazy people that'll say, it's not the best and I need to do better and whatever, but the book is actually very good. A lot of people have read the book. A lot of people have reached out to me, even some of the folks who are sort of my adversaries, people who were like, oh, she's writing a book, why, you know, all of the negativity. They've read it and they came back to me saying, wow. I had a guy ask me the other day whether or not my book is more about career-based organizing. So I assume, you know, because he was calling me state-sponsored and I'm paid for by the Democrats and, you know, all the talking points. And so you know, so he said, is the book, I engaged him and so he wrote back to me and said, is it a career-based model for organizing, or is it mass-based like organizing? And so I was like, well, I wouldn't be the best person to write like a career-based book if it's about like how to do it for money, how to do it for how to organize, you know, for your financial benefit, because until the last maybe 4 years of my life, maybe 3 years of my life, you know, I was hardly making it in terms of this work. I had all my consulting work, of course. I've had my speaking engagements, but in terms of you know, the organizing work, so much of my personal money was going into my work. And I have for many years been someone who was an organizer because this is my passion. And, you know, and I continue to do that today. Like, you know, if I, for whatever reason, I didn't have a paycheck coming in from our organization, I would still be doing this work because it's what I believe in. And I'm not saying that there are not people out there that should not have or find ways to make money, you know, while being an organizer. I in no way agree that people should be out in communities working and, you know, out here trying to change the world and being broke. I don't agree with that. But, you know, so as I was having that conversation, I'm like, so for me, State of Emergency is not about career-based or even mass-based organizing. It's really about individual people looking at yourself and figuring out how can you check your biases, check the way in which you show up in spaces, and then how can you be a better, not ally, but an accomplice in this movement. It is really about examining a lot from the perspective of what we've been through, but also some real tangible things that folks can do to shift the way in which they participate in the work and to make it more real, like to get into a real organizing stance and a fighting stance with those people who are marginalized and people who are out here fighting for justice. And so, you know, State of Emergency is my baby, right? And I really worked hard through a lot. And we lived in Louisville, we were protesting every day, you know, and I would have to go back and sit and really work to put this book together. And so I hope that folks will go and support me. You all supported me with the hardcover like crazy. I couldn't believe it. Schools purchasing, hundreds of books, students everywhere. And because it was a pandemic, most of what we did was virtual in terms of all of our book events, but we also got to get out in the streets. So that's it, state of emergency. Check it out. It's not on the New York Times bestseller list for people who have asked, and it was because they said they didn't know about it. And they also said that, they didn't know about it. And we sold more books in the first couple of weeks in the time period that the New York Times bestsellers list is determined. We sold more books than several of the other individuals who made the list. And so we know that somebody made a political decision that they did not want to look at my book.
Listen, man, you was the people's bestseller. I already told you these lists that they pretty much create to try to give status. They don't actually exist in our world. So for the people, everybody that I heard and seen was like, that book is fire. I don't even be liking to read people books, and I thought it was fire. So listen, you did.
Don't say that you don't like to read people.
I don't like. Listen, man. Most of these people I'm not interested in. I'm gonna keep it real. They don't interest me enough. I don't want to read their books. And sometimes I do. There are very few books. Shout out. I actually read Charlamagne's book. I thought it was dope. The first one. I didn't read the second one. There's a few people.
You was into Shaka Senghor's book.
Shaka's book. Like, you know what I'm saying? There's certain people that intrigue me. And then actually when you read it, you're like, wow, this is something to read. So your book was amazing. Not only because, you had a little segment with me in there, but it was amazing because it was just amazing. And I look forward to the paperback. We got to get on this road though, man. The pandemic is over. You got to get on the road, get this book tour going. Like, don't y'all want to see Tamika Mallory on a book tour, hitting your seat, going to your school?
I like Zoom. I like Zoom. I love Zoom.
Touch the people, man. Go out there and love the people. They love you. You got to go out there and give them some hugs, man. Come on now.
I love Zoom. I could stay right here in my house and talk to everybody. But no, that doesn't work. It doesn't work. So I'm ready, to get on back outside. But actually, I'm in the process of writing my second book, which is about my life. And there's some real interesting stuff that's going to be in there. But enough about my book. Let's talk about some of what's happening across this country, because we have to make sure that, we let the people know about the progress, and I'm saying quote in quotes, of this administration and what they have been doing, because there's so much that we need to sort of monitor.
They do something good, because people act like this whole administration is terrible, it's the worst. I mean,
it depends on who you ask. Because one of the things is that last week, President Biden pardoned 3 people and he did 75 sentence commutations. Tell me, what is the difference? Tell the people, what's the difference between the two?
Well, a pardon is when you just restored all of your rights back, when your conviction and everything is overturned. It's just like you never had any conviction. A commutation is when they lighten the sentence, that and they might release you, or they cut the sentence in half, but you still are given that the crime that you did, but they modified the sentencing of.
Oh, okay, yeah, I get that. That's right. So the pardon is gone completely. So was what's our sister's name? Was she pardoned? She was on the show not long ago. Oh Lord, who? Topeka Sam. Was she pardoned, or was she?
I don't know. I have to look into the case. I don't know exactly. I think there was actually, I think she was probably commutated. I don't know if she was pardoned. I think she had a commutation.
I'm gonna look it up. Or maybe somebody in our production office can look it up and tell us whether or not she was pardoned or her sentence was commuted. But anyway, one of the people who was he was pardoned. He was the first Black Secret Service agent. In 1964, he was accused of attempting to sell a copy of a Secret Service file. He says that he was targeted for exposing racism. Now, I didn't get a chance to read to see what was in the file, but I'm going to assume for the purpose of this conversation that it had something to do with, that it had something to do with, that the file had something to do with why he was being targeted. I don't know, so we won't say for sure, but nonetheless, he was accused of trying to sell a copy of a Secret Service file. He says that he was exposing racism and that he was exposing unprofessional behavior. And his name is Abraham Bolden, and his sentence was pardoned. So 1964 to now, I have to do some more research to see, like, where is this man? Is he still alive? He was like, what the hell has happened to him? But again, he was the first Black Secret Service agent. There were 2 other people pardoned who had nonviolent drug offenses. And then there was the 75 sentence commutations, which I'm sure a variety of different individuals. Now, there is a woman on Twitter. I have to look up her name. Can you still see me?
Yeah, you see you.
Okay, good.
Oh, so Tamika was pardoned. She was pardoned by Trump.
Okay, so Tamika was pardoned. So there is a woman named Rachel Barkow. I don't know exactly what she does, but she is a white woman who looks like she might be like maybe a reporter or something. We should check that out. But she says it's better, she tweeted, "It's better late than never. Though this is such low-hanging clemency fruit, it's practically on the ground. Most of these people were already released by Bill Barr under the CARES Act. All CARES Act folks are easy clemency grants. So I'm a little worried we're just seeing a subset." So, we have to do some digging to understand, because, let's see if you're still there. Yeah. So there's so many smoke and mirrors, and, I don't know for sure, but I'm sure all of these people, regardless of whether this is a continuation of other work or whatever it may be, I'm sure these people appreciate the fact that they have been, in some way, their situation has been addressed.
Relief, yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, the bottom line is, you know what it is? There's no administration that's going to be perfect, and not saying that this administration is anywhere near perfect or anywhere near what I think it should be. And I'm not saying that is. I'm just saying that people will always critique. People are always going to say, "You're not doing enough." Well, okay, this and that. Because like before, when people was telling me about the bill to make hanging what was they said
a hate crime to the Emmett.
Everybody was like, yeah, the Emmett Till, they still haven't done it, and they still haven't done it. And then when they did it, it was like, oh, so what that mean? And it's just like, yeah, I was saying they didn't do it. Now they do it, and y'all still trying to figure out what it means. It's like, that's what y'all said wasn't done. So it's like, for me, I'm going to continue to be, critical of every administration. I'm going to continue to fight, because America has never given Black people what it deserved. No administration that has ever been in America has given Black people what they deserve totally. I'm going to continue to fight, but I'm going to celebrate when there are things that we should celebrate. I'm going to acknowledge that things are going in a manner that are progressive when they're going in a manner that are progressive. And when they're not, we're going to call them out, and we're going to make, them make adjustments and force them to do what we need to be done. It's really hard. It's really hard as just individuals who actually care, because you hear all the back and forth, and you get all the naysay back and forth, and you did this and you said this, and it's like, listen, you have to make decisions that benefit you. You have to look at what it is in your community, what it is in your life that's being affected by this government, and make sure that you have a say in that. And that's what we did. We said, hey, this is what's affecting us. This is what we think are the threats to our people. This is the things that we think need to change for our people. And we focused on that. And we decided to make sure that one president who we know didn't focus on that was going to stay in office. So that's where we at right now.
Well, yeah. So when you talk about things that need to be uplifted, I won't necessarily say celebrated, because until there's actual change, we don't get to celebrate. But something that should be uplifted is that the Department of Justice has found that Parchman Prison, the Mississippi State Penitentiary, has violated the Constitution. And the reason why, first of all, that's just important.
Just now they just figured that out.
Yeah, right. But the reason why that's important is a number of things. First of all, it shows the full scale of our work, right? So the local community had already for years been out there demanding that the Parchman Prison be addressed. They want it shut down completely, which it should be shut down. But in addition, some of the other things is to look at the prison and to address the major concerns. There were people complaining of starvation. We saw with our own eyes, based upon the incarcerated individuals, they were able to get footage from cell phones, which was contraband, that they got into the jails, and they were able to show the mold, the rats, the holes, and the inhumane living conditions within the jail. So they were able to show that. They were able to give us, some real evidence to work with. We found out about it because you and I and others were being tagged. And I mean, the incarcerated folks did their thing in terms of getting out the information to make sure that we had everything that we need, so that no one could say that there was nothing happening at Parchman Prison. But the worst of it was that with all the inhumane living conditions, people were dying every single day. So there were actual literal deaths, and that if there was gang wars happening, it was like the asylum, like there was no control. Everything was going crazy. People had lost they were losing their minds in there, living in the conditions. It was nasty, everything you could think of. It was terrible inside the jail. So for the Department of Justice to say it violates the Constitution, that should be to the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 10th power, because it was a disaster. So with that being said, we went and started to get involved and try to help the local folks there to do their organizing. Shout out to Rukia Lumumba, who we worked very closely with, and the Mississippi Prison Reform Coalition, a whole bunch of incredible people, Danielle, Miss Sharon, so many people that's doing work there continuously. Yeah. Then Rock Nation, they also got involved. So we worked with the local folks. We worked with Rock Nation to file a lawsuit in which we went in and helped to, not went into the jail, but we used our resources to get a number of the incarcerated folks to become a part of the lawsuit, the class action lawsuit. And then they sent lawyers in. They helped us to put billboards up, to bring awareness to the local community. They helped us to get letters that cost money to be published in newspapers and all of that. And, everything. Jay took calls with the governor. Everybody put their pressure in their own way. We, along with the local folks, organized a big rally. And the end result of it is that the Department of Justice could not deny the work. They could not deny. So when people say protesting doesn't mean anything, protesting plus legislation and protesting plus legal work together is what will ultimately impact the legislative process. So now they're saying, the Department of Justice is saying that they've sent something to the local government and it's up to them to make the changes. But if not, they will, they will take legal matters, take a legal action to force a monitor there and to make sure that the changes happen in the jail. And that's a full-scale explanation of everything that took place in all the steps.
Exactly. You know, we have to apply pressure. I tell people all the time, you know, people don't change their minds because you say, hey, something is wrong. If you don't apply pressure, if the world doesn't see it, if you don't expose it to the world, then they continue to live in the manner that they're living. You know, these prisons are based on trying to make money off bodies, you know, and they don't want to put money, they want to spend as little dollars as possible to be able to maintain those prisons. And that's why they look the way they are. That's why they run the way they are. That's why the prisoners are treated the way they are. So, you know, thanks to the federal government for looking in. Shout out to everybody who participated. Yo Gotti was one of the first people.
Yo Gotti, that's right.
From there, he was like, you know, he wanted to utilize his voice and his platform to bring attention to what was happening inside the Parchment prison. So, you know, it was a joint effort. There were numerous artists. Jay Prince was there. My brother, who else was there? It was a few other artists that I can't think of right now who came out and supported us.
Yeah, I mean, it was so many. And I think we should run it back. Like we should, you know, pull up for socials and show people. Yandy was there. Jamila T. Davis was there. There were a number of individuals that showed up for the rally. And people, we went to Mississippi probably 5 times trying to help with local meetings, trying to help with the organizing efforts. We actually took some of the resources that people were donating to Until Freedom, and we made sure to give it to folks that are there locally. You know, we did what we could as an organization to help elevate the issue. And then in addition to all of that, Roc Nation came in with their resources, which they have many more, and they were able to help bring it really, like, you know, expose it and put it out there. And the class action lawsuit is certainly helpful. So to your point, it's, you know, we have to continue to do this. And there are many other prisons that are having similar, if not worse, situations that need to be looked into as well. So this helps to set the standard. And then we have to do the work of going into these other local communities and helping to bring to light some of the issues that's happening in those jails as well, in those prisons as well.
Facts.
So that makes me, you know what I was thinking, because you said something that made me think, I know what it was. I was going to say there, and this is a part of this is my thought of the day. I was thinking to myself this weekend, because people were tagging me all weekend to the man that said, you know, paid sponsor about the book that I've already mentioned. And, you know, he was questioning, you know, why do I get to write a book? I'm like, well, you know, I'm only almost 30-year veteran in this work. And so I would imagine, he said, you know, people getting paid for books. I would imagine that you, especially as a Black man, would not want me to be exploited, where 30 years of my work is, and I'm going to give it to the world that I'm not paid for, when other people write books about.
Yeah, right. You're supposed to write a free book.
Everybody else can write books about Coochie Lucci and Tucci, but me, I write a book about my experience as an organizer for almost 30 years of my life, and what I've seen, and what I hope we as a people, that, you know, that all of us will take on more of a role in the movement. And for some reason, that's questionable. And then, you know, he also said something about how, you know, people who are leaders or activists should be in study. And I realize that people do not know or don't understand my track record.
What does study look like?
Well, I mean, he's saying that they should sit in, you know, I guess in study groups and whatnot. And again, what I'm saying is that I think people don't recognize, first of all, I think that your real life experience and what you've actually been through is study groups enough in some situations. But I do think you have a responsibility to educate yourself on history, to educate yourself on the politics of organizing and understanding where the pitfalls are and what others have tried, so those things, that's why study is important. But I think that when people see me, because I'm so cute and young looking, that they don't realize that for 30 years, I have been sitting at the feet of greats that have organized and have been some of the best historians. I've learned under people like Dr. Ben Johaken. I've learned under people like Shashi McIntyre and Dr. Esther Hyatt and folks, and been in space with real, strong, Black Pan-Africanists, right? I've been in that space my whole life. I think, just looking at Mark Thompson and how today, the Reverend Mark Thompson is my mentor, somebody who sits with me and talks to me. At 2:00 in the morning, we on the phone with Reverend William Barber. So I think folks don't understand that. And what I was thinking about is like, is it just lucrative? And like, it doesn't matter anymore whether a man or woman, but a man particularly, is telling the truth about what they say. Does that even exist anymore? Is it just say whatever you want? And even though you're supposed to be a man and you call yourself honorable, you don't even have to know if what you're saying is true. And sometimes it's not, but you're still saying it. And I'm not even talking about the first guy who's asking the questions.
Talking about in general.
I'm just saying, in general, I noticed that when I get tagged, if I hit these pages, people who call themselves in the next post honorable and stand up are folks who are saying things about other people that are not true. And they don't even know what they're talking about. But is it lucrative? Like, is there money actually being made on this is what I'm asking, because clearly I just don't know.
Well, shout out to Papoose. Papoose called me earlier this morning, and we was having this very similar conversation. And it was like, we are in an era where you can say anything. You can literally say anything, and it doesn't have to be founded. It doesn't have to have any proof. You don't have to research it. You can just blurt out things and get a following with that, because what happens is people are entertained by lies, right? They say, who cares about the truth when the lie is more entertaining? People are entertained because if I could say the worst thing about you and it could be true, then that's gossip, right? So if I say it, people they want it to be true. Some people are so jealous or envious of whatever it is that your situation may be, or what they think your situation is, because you wear your trauma and your pain better than others do, and they only see you in a certain light. And sometimes people envy your life or what they believe your life is so much that they want to see pain for you. They want chinks in your armor. They want you to be hurt. They want something negative to be about you. So when it's spurted out, nobody cares. And what's happening is they are actually getting paid for that, Tamika. There are YouTube channels and people on YouTube channels who say the most unfounded and the most unrealistic and the biggest lies in the world. And they have hundreds of thousands of followers who want to believe that, and they just feed into it, and they just go there every day and they feed that narrative. And YouTube and marketing, certain marketing agencies and people that want to be marketed are marketing on these channels because they have the amount of followers and views. So it's definitely lucrative. Lying and false, advertising and false, production and media is really a thing, and it's one of the most lucrative things in the world right now.
Well, I have to figure out how to stop people from being, and it's unfortunate because sometimes let me not say sometimes. The majority of the time, I get tagged to beautiful things, educational issues, and I also get tagged to cases and situations that's happening around the country. Like, for instance, this young woman was tagging me for a couple days to something about what another young lady is going through in Washington, D.C. And she's like, can you help her? And it was a simple thing. The young lady just needs an attorney to look at her case, right? And so this is something that I more than likely can help with. And so when I get tagged to some of those things, I don't get to see them all. Sometimes it's a lot. Sometimes it's not, it's a light time, or I'm just not as busy. So I'm able to click and read and kind of understand. But in But then there are times when I hit things and it's really nasty, really nasty. And I was just trying to figure out, because I don't know, right? And I asked other people, like, help me understand something that I don't get. I don't understand, like, how do you, right? How do you think you're going to be successful in your life if your time is being spent trying to tear down other people, and or your time is being spent focused on everybody else's stuff, analyzing and demeaning people, trying to humiliate them, and then you go a step beyond that, lying on them, making up narratives. If I focus my attention in that way on any individual or certain people and groups, it's no way that this Parchman prison thing would have happened. The reason why this Parchman prison situation has happened is because all of the individuals involved, for a year, we were extremely focused on what we had to do. So we sat every day, we met, we traveled back and forth, we were engaged heavily in this campaign, and never once throughout that were we using our social media or using whatever else to focus on some other individual who is doing other things that's helpful in our community, right? Whether or not we agree. I don't always agree. I think Carmen Perez is my sister. We about to talk to her husband. Even Jay, let's just use him since Carmen is not here. She and I can sit down and say, well, I don't think we should go left. Or Jay can say, I think we should go right. We don't always agree. But at the end of the day, the fact that you're trying to do something matters to me. And I don't have the time to spend.
You just don't have the energy all the time, or you don't even have the want.
I don't even want to.
You don't want to, exactly. But the problem is these people have figured out how to do it. And this is what
you're saying they make money.
Yeah, it's quote unquote trolling. It's become a beneficial thing. So all I say is this, man. God bless you. If utilizing my name is able to help you, then God bless you. But you won't get a response from me, because I got so much stuff to do.
Out. That's over. We did that.
Over. Those things is over. Listen, you're beating a dead horse. I'm telling you, you're howling at the moon, and the moon ain't gonna move. You're wasting your time, man.
Well, let's bring our guest on.
Yes, man. Let's bring our guest on, man.
All of our guests have to get to. Everybody's in the car. We've had Don Pooh in the car. We had Nadia Henry travel with Sparkle. Everybody's in the car. People got to get where they going, do what they're doing. You in the car today.
We working.
Man, all the time. I appreciate you, man. This is my brother, Jay Jordan. He is the CEO of Alliance for Safety and Justice. Jay Jordan is nationally recognized public policy expert, political campaign specialist, organizer, climate activist, and entrepreneur. And he is my brother from another mother, man. What's going on with you?
Before you finish, he is my sister's husband, Miss Carmen Perez Jordan. And he is the father of two beautiful baby boys and a dog, because now they have a little pup that has become a child of their family as well. And I'm happy to see you, Jay. You welcome the Street Politicians, bro.
You made it.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. It's an honor to and I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah. What part of the country are you in?
I'm actually in LA.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm in LA. Between LA and New York, but right now I'm actually in Oxnard right now.
Oh, you're in Oxnard.
Yeah. I'm in the hood. I'm on M Street right now.
All right.
So listen, Jay, we brought you on here. Tell us about what it is that you've been doing with the Alliance for Safety and Justice. Tell us about Times Done. Tell them about what it is that you're trying to do for returning citizens, all the work that you've been doing.
Yes, I'm gonna level set for a minute. So think about what safety is, right? Like actual safety. Think about the time you feel most safe right now. Like if you're listening to this, think about when you feel most safe. Think about aesthetically what it looks like, what it smells like, who you around, right? I guarantee you that nobody is talking about cops in prisons when they think about safety. And yet the business model of the public safety system, the actual institution that's supposed to keep us safe, has nothing to do with fresh cut grass, our church, our good schools. The thing, when you think about visually safety, you're thinking about like two-hand touch football. You're thinking about pickup basketball. You're thinking about barbecues, right? You're thinking about community, home ownership. You're not thinking about more police, more prisons, more jails. You're not thinking about that stuff. But the entire system, right? Like in California, the state spends $50 billion on its public safety system. $50 billion. 0% of those dollars actually go to prevent crime from happening, right? The entire public safety system is a response system. It only responds after a crime occurs, right? And so if what we consider to be safety is like not having crime in the first place, but our tax dollars are going to a system that has nothing to do with preventing crime and everything to do with responding to crime after it happens, that makes no sense at all. And so Alliance for Safety and Justice, we are the largest public policy organization working to change that paradigm in America. We operate in the 10 largest incarcerated states: California, Arizona, Texas, Florida, Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Georgia, and we're going into New York as well in the next few years. And our goal is to shift state and local budgets to fit the priorities of actual taxpayers. So if you are a tax-paying citizen right now, or if you just are in America and you're consuming, you're paying taxes into that public safety system, you have a right. You have a constitutional right to be safe. And the system that is currently in place is not safe. And so we pass laws, we run campaigns, we organize victims of crime, we organize people who've been arrested or incarcerated to change this paradigm in these states. And then not only pass these laws, but then work with the government to implement these laws. Because a lot of times we pass laws, that's the politics side. The governing side is what people don't hear about. But these are the things that community actually deals with every day. We deal with police, we deal with sheriffs, we deal with prisons and probation and parole. That's government, right? But we always talk about politics, what's on TV, but the government side is the implementation side. And so we just don't do the politics side and pass these laws. We also work with government on the governing side to implement these laws to ensure that if we pass a law that says, you know, hey, people that got caught with, you know, an ounce of weed don't go to jail, we make sure that those folks who got caught in the past get their record expunged as well. All right. And that's the tough work that we do. Most recently in 2018, we launched a program called Time Done. And Mysonne, you were there, Tamika, you were there. It was headlined by Nipsey Hussle. He helped us launch it. You helped us launch it. And the goal is to raise awareness about what happens and what has happened, right? As a result to over incarceration, our incarceration first policies in the last 20 to 30 years in America. The result is 70 million people have been arrested or incarcerated. 70 million, right? That is a lot of people. That's more than the entire country of Canada, right? We've arrested and incarcerated more people than the entire country of Canada. And if you've been arrested or incarcerated, the deeper you go into the justice system, the more harmful it is for you when you get out. There's something called collateral consequences. This is what a lot of people don't know, right? There's a term, it is a legal term called collateral consequences. There are 48,000 of these, and these are actual laws. These are laws that are economic, social, and civic sanctions that people with felonies and with misdemeanors face after they serve their sentence. Get this, these aren't triggered until you're done with your sentence, until you're done with probation or parole, then these things go into play.
So okay, so because this is the one that I wanted to ask you about, because I was blown away when I heard about the collateral consequences. I was an ignorant person who believed that once someone finished their sentence and their like time is done, and like real time that I'm talking about, off parole, off probation, off everything, they could unless they, of course, if they were like, if they had like a rape or something like that, sexual assault offense like that on their record, I thought they could return to society like any other person and just get back and do whatever. When I learned that things like opening up a barbershop, they couldn't, or maybe they couldn't get a barber license, they can't be dog walkers, I was blown away. Because also the things that it seems that people are being prevented from doing have absolutely nothing to do with public safety. Like, how does a person getting a barber license and or walking a dog have to do with, or how does that keep people safe if someone is doing that so that they can work and not go out and commit a crime?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question, right? So first off, these collateral consequences derive from what was called the Black Codes, right? And I'm sure if y'all watch Street Politicians, you heard about these Black Codes, right? This was the result of radical Reconstruction. So after in 1865, when the Emancipation Proclamation was signed and slavery legally ended in America, there was something called the Black Codes that were instituted, and these were laws that essentially put on the books that criminalized people from doing everyday things like, standing on a street corner or crossing the street while a white person was on the sidewalk, right? Like all these different laws were created. The first ever recorded collateral consequence, right, that derived from the Black Codes was in 1898, Hawker versus New York, right? And this is super important for people to understand because this is the bedrock of what we have today. So you have the Black Codes. The Black Codes kind of ceased to exist and they turned into Jim Crow. And then you had people that were actually going into prison and getting felonies. And when you got out, you weren't, tied down after doing radical Reconstruction. You were just criminalized. So in 1898, Hawker versus New York, it was a doctor that performed an abortion. At the time, abortions were illegal. So he served his time, he got out and continued to practice medicine. Well, what happened was the US Supreme Court passed a law that said, no, the state of New York passed a law that said, if you have a felony, you can't practice medicine. Well, this was after he had served his time. So they snatched his license away from him. He appealed to the Supreme Court, right? And said, wait a minute, I already served my time. You can't snatch my license because this was happened. I got my license back before you passed this law. The Supreme Court ruled, and this is important, the Supreme Court ruled and said, because you committed a crime, you are a bad moral character for the rest of your life. You can't be trusted.
Wow.
Right? That was the foundation of collateral consequences. Fast forward to 1950, we went from we had a bunch of industrial economy to a service economy. And this was the rise of occupational licensing boards, right? And during the 1950s and 60s, when, you had these professional occupations and you had to get a license for them, they began to pass laws because the mob had all of the jobs. So the federal government said, you know what, all these dudes are felons. Let's pass a law that says you cannot be in a licensed profession and get your license unless you don't have a felony. So that prevented people from getting occupational licensing. Fast forward to the mass incarceration era. From 1970 to 1990, you had a mass criminalization of a bunch of Black and brown men and a bunch of Black and brown women. And all that was cool. But then in 1994, you had the crime bill, and that added a bunch of social sanctions. Right. This is where you got not being able to get food stamps, not being able to get Pell Grants. So not only could people with felonies not get occupational licenses, now you can't even operate in society with your kids. Fast forward to 2001. This is where you've seen the proliferation of the background check industry. In 2001, there wasn't a background check industry. Less than 25% of employers and landlords were doing background checks. Post 9/11, upwards of 90% of employers and landlords now do background checks. And 2 years after 9/11 happened, right, the background check association was formed, and everybody began to do background checks in the interest of national security. So now what do you have? You have 70 million people that have been arrested or incarcerated. They can't work. If you have a felony in America, you can't work in finance, can't work in education, can't work in insurance, can't work in government, can't work in a lot of tech sectors. You are barred from the growth sectors. You just can't get one or two jobs. You are barred from entire industries. Not only are you barred from entire industries, but you're also barred from participating in your child's education and in child's life. You can never adopt. You can't join the PTA. You can't coach a soccer team. You can't even join your own HOA. Not only do you have these social sanctions, you also have housing sanctions. And this is important too. So people can't work. They can't really participate in their child's education and extracurricular activities as a volunteer, only as a spectator. And then people are regulated to areas that are unsafe because landlords do background checks. So 90% of housing out there, people cannot live in. So we're aggregating all these people that can't work, that can't really participate into society, and then they all live by each other. And they're living in areas with extractive industries like payday loans. And think about the hood right now. Aesthetically designed, it's aesthetically and designed to extract wealth and extract health from our people, right? Think about the payday loans, think about the bail bonds, the liquor stores, the buy here, pay here car lots. All that is extractive. And so people with felonies are forced to live in these neighborhoods. And then what happens is the sad reality is health begin to deteriorate. If you have a felony in America, like on the aggregate, the health outcome for people with felonies are 10 years less than someone with not, right? And so we've created what we call post-conviction poverty. And that's what this is about. And so Time Done addresses post-conviction poverty by providing economic empowerment opportunities to people who've been arrested or incarcerated, and then political education and engagement opportunities to help change these laws.
So right now, the initiative that you're doing right now, what is the particular initiative that you are focusing on right now that are focusing on changing these, these harsh laws that are detrimental to returning citizens?
So it's two ways, right? You cannot ask people to be politically engaged if they don't know where they're gonna get their next meal. You cannot ask people to go out to a march or sign up to vote if their kids are struggling and they can't pay rent and they can't afford a $6 gallon of gas. You just can't. Like it doesn't work. It's not sustainable.
So I'm with the people you can't ask. Straight up, yo. When we came back from Africa, and I went to the gas station and to the car wash. First of all, my car wash has been $20. The car wash was $30, and the gas was $6.49 a gallon. And I was sitting there like, yo, I can afford it, but it hurts, but I still can afford it. But I can't imagine what some of my family members who cannot afford, they really literally can't even afford $4 a gallon. So $6.49, bro, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's wild. And so like during the pandemic, what we did, we were the ones out there saying, oh man, if you're formerly incarcerated, if you got a record, or if you got a criminal record, come to us and help us change these laws. That was us. That was like literally, that's what we were doing. So we called people during the pandemic. We developed a internal phone banking call center, and we called our members. We got 70,000 members, right? We called them, and it was like, they were like, hey, listen, don't call me unless you got a job for me. Don't call me. And our phone bankers are like, yo, this is traumatic. I'm like, nah, it's not traumatic. It's traumatic for you. Imagine how they feeling. Exactly. And so we flipped our entire script. So what we do is we do two ways. So we provide economic empowerment opportunities. We actually launched the first ever economic empowerment platform for people, strictly tailored for people who've been arrested or incarcerated. And we connect them with actual careers and jobs. We connect them with credit and personal finance courses for free. And shout out to my brother Jay Morrison, the Legacy Center University. They're taking folks through a first-time homebuyer course and getting folks in the mindset of actually owning their own homes. So we connect them with jobs, we teach them how to save money and get their credit right, and then Jay Morrison like link them up and ensure that they can actually get housing, right? The other thing that we do is we're putting our own bread up to ensure that everybody, if you've been arrested or incarcerated, or if you've been a victim of crime and you are struggling financially to pay gas, to pay childcare, to pay whatever, groceries, we have a loyalty program. All you got to do is actually become a member and you get access to our member loyalty program. This provides people with over 700,000 discounts across the country. So wow. For like 50% off of gas, 30% off of your grocery bill. If you want to go to Baby Gap and buy your kids school clothes, a lot of people can't even do that, right? I remember my parents buying me school clothes. People not even buying their kids school clothes right now because it's so expensive. We're providing people an opportunity to not only beat inflation, but get under inflation by providing these business deals. And that is our economic empowerment platform for time done. And then after we stabilize folks, we have these deep conversations about what they actually need. If they need mental health support, if they need anything, right, we actually link them up with that. And then after we stabilize them, then we turn them into our chapters. And our chapters is where we do the political education and engagement. And so our big policy goal that we're working on now is called Sunsets. It's pretty simple. After you serve your time and you remain crime-free for X amount of years, your record goes away, right? It becomes spent. They do this in the UK, they do this in France, they do this in other countries around the world where your record cannot be the reason why you're denied a house. Your record cannot be the reason why you're denied a job, right? And our underlying foundational goal is that everyone should have a right to earn their redemption, right? Yes, you did harm in the community, right? You should have a right to earn your redemption and get back to life. Like it is the most unconstitutional and un-American thing to not allow somebody to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, you know?
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question, Jay. So, as we close out, I know you
want to ask a question too. One that's important.
Okay, you go first, and then I'll do my last question.
I want people to understand your background because
that's what I was going to ask about.
Oh, you was okay. So yeah, so that's what I want people to do. Because
well, what I was going to ask, so maybe it's a two-part thing, but what I was going to ask is let's bring it home and make it real for people so they can understand. Because when we talk about these things, folks, you know, like for instance, for me, you know, people are like, oh, you know, drug addiction is a problem. Like, yeah. And when I was addicted, this is what happened and where I went and whatever. And then it's like, yo, I started getting all kinds of phone calls from people who you don't even know. And they hitting me like, hey, I need to talk to you. Could you help me out? You know, with my situation. So making it personal is important. What are some of the goals that you have in your personal life that right now there's a barrier to you being able to do some of these things because of the, you know, the consequences issue that you talked about? And I guess that feeds right into my son's question about what is your background?
Because for me, right, being formerly incarcerated, understanding the stigma and just listening to Jay and just realizing how brilliant he is, understanding that he is the CEO of this company and he has a lot of people who are following him and that he's given all this information and the work that he does is phenomenal and just showing you that rehabilitation is really possible and what we can do when we're given the opportunities after we return to be back to society. So I just wanted you to go from there.
Yeah, so I mean, a few months after my 18th birthday, I was involved with a robbery, right? Didn't get no money. No one was hurt. I was the only one that got caught. Didn't tell. So they gave me 7.5 years and they gave me 2 strikes, right? I served 2 years in solitary confinement. And during that time, I put my head into the books and my goal was to become a millionaire before I turned 30. I got out when I was 26. And the way I was going to become a millionaire was I was going to sell used cars, open up a barbershop, and in that barbershop, sell life insurance and sell real estate, right? That was my goal. and life insurance because a bunch of people I knew was dying, and real estate because everybody was renting. When I got out, I couldn't sell real estate because I couldn't get the license because of my felony. Couldn't sell insurance because I couldn't get the license because of my felony. Couldn't become a barber, even though I was cutting hair in prison. Couldn't become a barber because I couldn't get the license because of my felony. So I ended up buying and selling vending machines, and I was successful. I started with 4 vending machines, and I grew that business to 102 vending machines. You know, over the course of like eight months, I was hustling, and then I got away from that because I didn't want my legacy to be paydays and Doritos. You know what I mean? I saw a bunch of people dying, and so I started to organize kids. Fast forward, became the first ever campaign field director for a congressional race while I was still on parole. Right, I was literally on parole running a congressional field campaign for California Congressional District 9, and we, like, no one believed in us, but we won by the largest margin ever in that district. And I got involved with ASJ about 7 years ago. I started as networks manager, and I was given opportunity. Like, no one believed in me. I was homeless. I was so broke. I used to cut top ramen in half and eat like 1 in the morning and then 1 in the afternoon. I would like pay when I got paid. I would like actually put gas in my tank just to go drive to South Los Angeles and organize churches before I would feed myself, because I was so in love with changing lives and giving folks an opportunity. And that paid off. That paid off. I started as networks manager 7 years ago. Now I'm the CEO of the largest criminal justice reform organization in the country. And, you know, this is not, you know, like something that, is not possible for anybody. This is actually possible for a lot of people who've been arrested or incarcerated. If you've ever been arrested or incarcerated, if you have a loved one that's been arrested or incarcerated, that does not mean you are less than. It actually means that you are a community expert and you need to lean into this issue. Like with Time Done, if you are watching this and you've been arrested or incarcerated, you're formerly incarcerated, you're a returning citizen, you know somebody, you're married to somebody, you got a family member, go to timedone.org. Go to timedone.org, and the first thing you're going to see on there is 4 words: you are not alone. Because you're not. There's 70 million of us, and we're not going to stop until we get free. This is, I believe, one of the largest miscarriages of justice that this country has ever seen outside of slavery, to the mass incarceration and the mass felonization of millions of American citizens, and the disenfranchisement and all of the economic and social and civic sanctions put on people like me. Right now, even though my crime was 20 years ago, I got out over a decade. I've been out over a decade, ain't committed a crime in 20 years, right? I cannot ever adopt a kid. I cannot. I have 2 boys, right? I can't volunteer at their school. You know, I tried to get an au pair because we needed some help, right? You know, they asked me if I had a criminal record. I'm trying to pay somebody to come and watch my kid, and they're asking me if I have a criminal record. You know, we bought a home. I can't even join the HOA, right? These are things I can never do. And contrary to popular belief, even if I were to receive a gubernatorial pardon from California, that will not remove these economic sanctions.
Wow.
Right. So there's literally no way that I can get free. No way. I will if people don't act and wake up, like people like me who's you know, should be able, you know, by all accounts, should be able to get my record expunged, right? But I can't because of my felony, right? Like, I'm gonna die with these collateral consequences. And millions like me, right? So just imagine, it's that safety.
Hopefully you will not die with these collateral consequences, because you guys are working together. I'm listening to you talk about your experiences, and when you said, you know, it's the second greatest miscarriage of justice, right along with slavery. And we just came back from visiting the dungeons where the enslaved Africans were held We walked the routes. We went and bathed in the river where our ancestors took their last bath. And the thing that when I listen to you, all I can think is they are still doing this shit to us right now. Like it hasn't, no one has paid, first of all. And I'm talking about from a reparations perspective and or prison or any level of accountability. Some of those people who were engaged in oppressing, enslaving, murder, trafficking, sexual assault, robbery, everything you can think of our ancestors, they still, their family members reign in certain areas of this world today. They are still holding our gold. They are still, at this point, their money is being backed by the blood of our ancestors. And still today, even though we have all these success, we done had Obama, we got Barack, Jay, Mysonne, Tamika Mallory, and the list goes on of Black people who are doing incredible things. The masses of our folks are still caught up in a middle passage. It's still a middle passage that we are in. And yet and still, folks smile in our face like we supposed to just be happy. And in the words of our brother, Angelo Pinto, attorney Angelo Pinto, Black folks are not outraged enough. We are not outraged enough. So we want to be supporting you and continuing to support you. And I know my song works with you. Whatever it is that we can do to be more involved, I feel like, to your point, this is like a ground zero issue. We can worry about a whole bunch of things, but this particular issue is ground zero for someone like me who has influence in the world.
Thanks.
Appreciate you. One last thing about that. I was just talking to Carmen about this on the way up here. You know, in the bucket of reparations, there is so much in that pot. If you think about the if I were to ask a question, was colonization like the transatlantic slave trade, and then like even before that, colonization, right, where Portugal, Spain, and England sent ships over here to essentially look for resources, and they found land. Like the colonization of the Western world, I believe, is something that people have not looked at enough, because if you think about what they did to like those African folks over there, and they not only did it to Africans, but they literally slaughtered like most indigenous tribes in South America, right? Like so like if we have a discussion around what did colonization achieve, it literally achieved, where we wouldn't be on the iPhone right now having this discussion. And like we need to have a honest conversation around the impacts, right, of colonization on certain people. Most notably and most like central is the enslavement of Africans, right? And then you have to look at, they indentured servitude all the Irish folks. They brought the Japanese over here and put them in internment camps and made them build the railroad. They slaughtered the Aztecs. They killed off the indigenous folks. There's a lot of people in there. And I believe it is up to, I hate to say this, but it is up to Black folk in the diaspora, all of us, to begin to have a global conversation around the impact of colonization. Because I know you know this. I know y'all know this. The same stuff that we're going through in America as Black people, look in Brazil, look in Mexico, look in Haiti, look in Ecuador, look in France, look in Spain, look in India. Everybody in the diaspora, it's mass incarceration. People got felonies. People are dying of health conditions. Like, it's literally the same shit that we're going through right now in America. It's happening all across the diaspora. And you cannot tell me that causation doesn't equal correlation in this regard. You enslaved folks, you ripped us from our homeland. You not only enslaved us, but you literally stripped us from our culture, our names, our language, everything, and you put us and you spread us all across the country and all across the world. And years later, we struggling, and now you're killing us, and you're imprisoning us. Like, that's I just don't know what else. Like, how the hell can we not say Like this is caused by colonization. So I'm with y'all. I can't wait to get into that conversation. I mean, me and 19 Keys been texting back and forth of my new brother right there, man, texting back and forth.
Emily.
And I believe this. I'll say this last thing. I believe that this is going to be the year of the DAO, decentralized autonomous organizations.
Yeah.
Right. This is going to be the year of the DAO, and DAOs and leveraging that Web3 technology is going to allow us to do some transformational shit. Right. And I cannot wait to build with y'all on this Web3 and a DAO, building a DAO to actually help us achieve that goal.
Well,
we love you, Jay.
We love you, King. The work don't stop, man. Shout out to my brother, Jay Jordan. Keep doing the work.
Thanks, Jay.
All right, y'all.
Peace.
That's phenomenal. And that's what it's about, man. You know, for me, like listening to Jay, you know, it brings me to, you know, the new segment that I want to add to our show. Like that we said that we're going to add to our show. We're going to be doing individual interviews. You're going to be individually interviewing people that you want to interview. And I'll have some individuals that I want to interview. And I really want to focus mainly on formerly incarcerated individuals that have risen, who have overcome, who have come home and been successful, have done positive things, who don't get the life. You know, people, you might know them, but you don't even know that they've been incarcerated. A lot of people within these industries, you don't know that they did 3 or 4 years or 5 years in prison who turned their life around. You just see their successes now. So I want to take those individuals and highlight them and show you that you can be reformed, that people do come home and are able to be successful. So that's going to be a segment. You know, the first episode I did was with one of my mentors, you know, the person who introduced me into this industry. You know, he was a former—
Into which industry?
Into the music industry.
Okay.
He found me, he was my manager, found me on a corner in the Bronx, took me and got me a record deal, you know, because he had influence that came from his former, you know, street dealings when he was a hustler in the streets. He was one of the biggest hustlers in Queens, you know, and he came home after being sentenced to 27 years in prison and actually getting his sentence commuted because they did something wrong, and he only served like 4.5, and he came home and he did a lot of stuff in the industry. The interview is going to be dope. His name is Anthony Jacobs, also known as Pretty Tone or Tony Montana, as they call him in Queens. Man, he's one of the first biggest drug dealers, and he's changed his life around. You see this hat I got called Respect the Jukes. He has a new movie that he executive produced along with my man Christ, and also executive produced with Pusha T. That is going to be hitting the theaters May 6th. So this is his first ever interview. So we're going to play like a little clip of it on this show so you can get it. But the main clip is going to be on my YouTube page that you can all be able to watch. It's a long interview, but it's so in-depth, and it gives you, you know, into his life, into his realities, and into his growth and where he is right now. I know that you, when I met you in 1998, you was home for a little while from the feds. Yeah. You know, a lot of people say, oh, that's Tone from Walton, that's Tone from Queens.
Well, actually, I've been home for 4 years.
You have been home for 4 years. So yeah. That's how our paths crossed, and I was doing music, and you was the first person to take me under your wing and get me signed. So give a backstory on why you was locked up, what was going on in Queens, you know what I'm saying?
Why I was locked up?
Yeah, why was you locked up? Like, what was you doing in Queens? Like, everybody kept saying, you don't know Tone, that's Tone from Queens, you don't know Tone. And I'm like, nah, I don't know Tone. So, you know, give us a little bit of the history. Because, you know, that's, unfortunately, we got to delve into the history of certain things.
I feel like that's necessary because it's all about evolution. So
that's the process. That's, you know,
like I want to, like, hopefully I can enlighten some of my younger comrades, you know. And I will. This interview is about talking to some of my comrades that's in the streets, that's in the struggle, and that's in the system. You know, I feel like a lot of them. That's right. I feel like they are, and nobody really pays attention to them, and that's why they don't pay attention to shit that people have a problem with as far as like being in the streets. I'm come from the street, I'm a product of the streets. I did a lot of shit in my days, but as far as like me in the 80s, you know, it was a time where, you know, we figured out how to get some money. Drugs was the way to do it. It was everything to do. I'll be honest with you. I didn't think it was a better job than selling drugs.
Yeah.
Nah.
So why do you say that? What
I don't know, because I guess I was making a lot of money. I don't know.
What is like
bro.
a lot of money? Like what is? I mean, you got to give us some context. You're saying a lot of money.
Right. A lot of money is like when you get caught. You know, they seize $5-6 million worth of stuff. How about that?
Okay, so you got caught and they seized $5 million.
Seized. Didn't find no money. Seized.
Seized.
Yes.
$5 million worth of what?
Property, cars, you know, shit like that.
Wow. So they never found the money, but
No money.
and all
No
they
drugs
seized,
neither. We never got caught with drugs.
never got caught with drugs or money, but they seized $5 million worth of property.
Yeah, a lot, yeah.
So what would you say, you know, was like, how much money you think y'all was making like weekly? Give me just what you would say. You know, because I want to get into context because you saying a lot of money. So I hear a lot of people.
Listen, we was making a lot of money. Like, we was making a lot of money. Like money where it would take you days to count it. Let me just say it like that.
Days.
Days.
Like how many days?
Depends.
Depends on
The most?
Yeah.
4.
4 days.
Yeah.
4 days straight.
To count money.
Wow. And you was making this in Queens?
In Queens. I don't know no other, I never made money nowhere else.
In Queens, you made, wow. And when was that? Like what?
I would say, you know, well, I got locked up in 88, so let's just say 85 to 88.
From 85 to 80.
But I would say like 86, 87 was like,
Was like the year. That was.
it was like, what are we doing? What are we gonna do with all this?
I always hear this story about the helicopter that y'all had come to the basketball game. Like, I never really asked you. What is that? What is this helicopter thing?
Did we buy one?
Did y'all
we have
buy
one?
it? Did y'all
Yes,
have
we
it?
had a helicopter.
So y'all owned the helicopter?
Yeah.
Wow.
We also own an island in Miami.
Y'all owned the island?
Yeah, we had our little house on the island in Biscayne, some shit I forgot. That was a long time ago.
So you had your own island
Yeah.
and a house on the island
Yeah.
and a helicopter?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we had cars in 3-stage, Rolls Royces, BMs, W, whatever. When they had cell phones, we used to have 3 cell phones in our car. You know, like back in the day, you have the antennas, so that's how you could tell like how many cell phones you got in your car.
And this was in the 80s.
In the 80s.
So you came home.
Got straight back on my
Got
1-2.
straight
But I was smarter about it. What I realized is that if anything happened to me or whatever, I'm going down by myself. So I would not. It wasn't like how before was like a lot of moving pieces. Like I'll just do me.
So you came home, got back on your 1-2, got out the basement.
Yeah. Got out the basement, doing good and everything, but how I get into the music industry is because I had got hit up 9 times.
So when you came home, you got hit up 9 times.
Yeah.
Some street shit that's in the game. Okay.
Yeah.
So how did that happen? Like, what was the?
You just said it.
I
Some
mean, I
street
know.
shit.
I'm not saying what it was. I don't want you. I'm saying you was doing what and got shot. I don't want to know who it was. Was you walking?
Oh no, I was sitting in my car.
You were sitting in your car.
I was sitting in my car waiting for somebody.
And then somebody just came and started dumping.
No, they didn't do that. I was sitting in my car and they probably was like it's like 3 of these rooms away, and they would just started shooting into my car, and I seen it, so I pulled my seat back. You know, but
So where you got hit at?
everywhere,
Everywhere?
like my leg, my back, I'm all over there. I got hit up.
All over the right side?
Yeah, like I was hit up. Some of them was, at first they thought it was more than 9, but a lot of them was some in and outs. And then I would say this too, and this is another thing that made me always, when I came home, I stayed working out. Mm-hmm. But I was just working out because I like to work out. But if I wasn't in the shape that I was in, I would have died.
Wow.
But I was in good enough shape to fight the trauma to get to the hospital. So when I'm going to the hospital, or when I'm laying Like when I was laying, they got me out of the car, I'm laying on the grass or whatever, some shit, I was in front of a church. These motherfucking detectives talking about who shot you. I'm like, yo, you serious, nigga? You think I'm gonna sit up here and talk to you about who shot me and I'm hit up? So, so they just put me in the ambulance, and all I kept saying is like, yo, just put me to sleep, man. Cause I've been hit before with a shotgun, so I know what it is. Like, I'd rather just put me to sleep. Anyway, I didn't wake up for 2 weeks in ICU. I stayed in the hospital for 4 months. But in the hospital, at first I still wasn't taking shit serious. I was like, yo, cream. Like, I was answering my and then one day I was like, yo, I started thinking that God put me on this earth for a reason. Cause all these chances, freedom, the dude next to me got shot twice, he died. So then I'm like, yo, maybe God put me on this. I started thinking he put me on this earth for a reason. So my whole process started really, really changing and shit, because I was like, yo, why am I getting all these chances? I really don't deserve them. Like, you know what I'm saying? So then that's when I was like, yo, I got to do something different. So I went to my godmother. I'm like, yo, tell Puff, like, what's up? I'm gonna get up with him, whatever.
This is the first interview, like.
Yeah, but I got a reason for that shit, man. This is my purpose right now. And by the way, this is my man shit. Like, I ain't no film person, but he's like, yo, bro, I was in LA down there, like, trying to be like fucking Howard Hughes, just get the fuck away from everybody, B. I'm good. This nigga called me back in, man. But I don't regret it, because this shit right here gave me purpose, and I feel like, we want to do urban content and just really be like, to explain to people like people like me, like him or whatever, like we wasn't born to be who we was. Niggas wasn't born to be gang members, wasn't born to sell drugs, rob banks, whatever. We products of our environment. The problem is that when we wish for 1,000 or 2,000 and then we start making money, we forget about our purpose. We chase the money now. So now this is why a lot of time we all crash and burn. Because at the end of the day, you making hundreds of thousands, potentially millions, whatever you're doing, you chasing the money, and it's a high.
So after he was released on the commutation, which is interesting that it all ties into the show. I didn't even know that when I was thinking about some of the current topics. But after he was released, did he ever get into trouble again? Did he ever go back to prison, or was he did he figure out a path from there?
It was that. If see, the thing about him, he's so honest. He's honest to a fault, right? So when he came back home and he was trying to figure it out, he didn't have no way. He actually went back to the streets, and he started hustling again, and he built himself up. He said when he came home, he didn't have nothing. He built himself up, and he had family members who were married to Puff's family members, and then he got into industry, started managing Mace, and he navigated his way through that way. And ultimately he got to where he is today, doing legal things, doing positive things. And this movie he's been working on for a long time, and I'm proud of him because I know him, and he's always been a mentor to me. He's somebody that I call that gives me the best advice, the rawest advice that I don't want to hear all the time, but it's always the realest advice ever. And just being able to see him elevate is something that's dope for me.
I think that's why we have to support people like Jay Jordan and so many that are
Wilson as well. What I'm saying?
Well, I'm specifically talking about folks who are dealing with trying to catch a tone as soon as you come out of the doors of a prison, right? We have to support those types of programs because there's only a few steps that a person can take without feeling like they have any support before they revert to what they know. Now, whether or not you actually go back to it, and it's not about celebrating it or praising it, because we want to see that people will continue to move in a progressive way. And there are some folks that when they come home, a person like you, no matter what it is that they have been through and are currently going through, they're not going to return to any type of negativity. They're going to try their best to stay on the up and up. And you had already been focused on changing your life before you were incarcerated, but unfortunately, what you went through. You lost your record deal. So many things happened. You could have easily got on the street and called a friend and said, set me up so I can make some money, but you didn't, right? But you are, as you always say, you are not the majority, right? Because most people trying to figure it out, it's not easy. So these programs and our government that claims that they want safety, they're trying to deal with recidivism and all of these issues, then we have to focus on, as soon as an individual steps through the gates, there is not giving them anything. I'm not talking about they show up and you like, we're gonna give you $100,000 so you can get started in your life, but a job, right? A job. And if you have all these barriers, the 45,000 or 48,000, the consequences, that collateral consequences that Jay just spoke about, the jobs that you can get are limited, right? So you need these things. You need jobs, you need health care, so you can get in there and first of all, take care of your body, but also take care of your mind, right? You need, especially if you have a family, you might need counseling for how you and your children acclimate again. It's a lot of things that have to be done to help you get back into society. So what do we do about that? And that's a big question that we have to pick apart and figure out, what more can our government and forget about the federal, the president and all of those people, because we already know, as you said, they're failing us all the time. But these local folks, congressional members, senators, folks, state senators, city council individuals, we need to be charging them with, what is your role in this particular work?
Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much the truth. You know, there are so many people who are struggling, so many people trying to figure it out. And that's pretty much like what I don't get. I don't get how you expect people who don't have opportunities or resources to be successful. How, like, what is the plan? If you give somebody nothing, where are they supposed to get something from? You know, when we talk about all these individuals and we talk about what Jay focused on, he said they focus on the problem after it's the problem, right? There's nothing that stop, like you said, there's nothing to give somebody like Tone when he comes straight home from jail. There's nothing to prevent him from going to jail. So there are processes and organizations and situations that he can get into so he don't have to. I found out he was in the Navy. You know, he did 3 years in the Navy and came home, was trying to figure it out, you know, and changes happen in his life. But what are the resources in our communities that make sure that these kids don't have to, that people don't have to resort to crime? I say all the time, poverty is violence. Poverty is crime. You know, if we know that there's a direct correlation from poverty to crime, why aren't we focused on stopping poverty? You know, because it doesn't fit capitalism, right? In order for capitalism to flourish, there has to be poverty. And unfortunately, they've chosen that minorities are the people who have to live in this poverty so that the rest of the 1% and 2% of people can continue to flourish. So, you know, I just don't understand. I understand it. It's not meant. You know, this is by design. Like you say, people say the system is failing. The system is not failing. The system is doing exactly what it was meant to do. It was meant to incarcerate people. It was meant to create conditions that only crime can fester in, because they need crime and they need all of these organizations that they're able to get free labor off of crime, and they're able to continue to market and utilize crime and poverty in order to make this capitalistic society continue to run.
Well, what I will say is that there are organizations out here doing the work. We have to find them, know them, support them. And, you know, perhaps some of the people, some of our critics that spend so much time focused on what we're doing, what we're saying, where we're going, and all of that, maybe, just maybe, if they're looking for a way to be able to grow in their own careers, and also if they're looking for a way to participate and to show how it's done, because they're saying we're doing it wrong. we're not doing it right. We don't speak right. We don't look right. We don't support the right causes. We're not doing all the things. Maybe they can find these organizations and these individuals and support them, work with them. And just know, though, that it's not quick and easy. And that's, to me, that's the biggest problem that most of us deal with when trying to figure out how to be a part of. It's not that they're bad people. It's not that everybody out here who's critical is a bad person. There's some people who are clowns, and that's just what it is. But there are other people who are critical because they're in pain, because they have trauma. And their trauma makes them look at some of us, like you said, that look a little dressed up and we look like we got it together. And they're like, well, how come you look this way? I'm still struggling, and you're supposed to be helping the community. And I don't see how what you're doing is fixing my corner, my block, my street, my grandmama's situation. And I respect that. I understand it. But what people have to understand is that it took over 400, but now we know, and Brother Hassan and others tell me all the time, slavery was not 400 years. It's been over 500 years that our people were captured, enslaved, trafficked, abused, and murdered. Over 500 years. And so it is not going to be that in this short period of time that I'm living, that you're living, that Dr. King lived, that Rosa Parks lived, that whoever you want to name, that short period of time cannot roll back everything that has happened to us for over 500 years. It's going to take work, and it's going to take that we as a people work together.
That's all facts, Tamika Mary. I want to shout you out with your Boycott Black Murder attire.
I got my Boycott Black Murder,
You know what I'm saying?
hat and sweatshirt.
They focus because the Boycott Black Murder movement is coming to town near you. State of emergency. The paperback book is out now.
Today.
Shout out to you for that.
And pick it up. And I'm actually on Kindle Unlimited as well. So people who read books on Kindle, you can go to Kindle Unlimited and read my book as well. So there's a lot of progress happening. And I assume that a lot of people, because of the progress, that's what really, really irritates
People gonna be mad. Listen, man, you're gonna be mad at me because this year my birthday's coming. We in Taurus season, and I'm so focused after leaving Africa and understanding what my ancestors had to go through just for me to get here. I cannot defame. I cannot make their plight in vain. So the level of fight and energy that I'm going to put into winning and making sure that the freedom that we want, we get in every aspect, and putting back into my community and just being successful all around is going to be at a level that you've probably never seen before. So get ready to be angry, get ready to troll, get ready to post, make YouTube posts, whatever you call, you're going to call me everything. But I want you to understand something. I'm not an ambulance chaser, right? You know what I am? I am a hood doctor who performs triage in the places that the ambulance don't come. With that said, I'm not going to always be right. Tamika Mallory's not going to always be wrong, but we will both always, and I mean always, be authentic. #1 show in the world. We got this, baby. Woo!
Listen to Street Politicians on the Black Effect Network on iHeartRadio.
And catch us every single Wednesday for the video version of Street Politicians on iWomen.tv.